Level 1. The Conscript. Schütze. East Prussia. Autumn, 1939. There's a brass compass in your pocket and it doesn't work. The needle spins. It always spins. Your grandfather carried it through the mud of the last war, and your father carried it after him. And when your father pressed it into your hand at the station, he didn't pretend it pointed anywhere true. It's not for finding north, he said. It's for remembering you have one. You didn't understand him. You were too busy watching your younger brother, Emile, 17, lying about his age to a recruiting clerk 3 desks down, grinning at you like the whole thing was a hunting trip. You told him to go home. He didn't. That's the first thing you fail at as a soldier, and it isn't the last. The depot takes you both anyway, because in the autumn of 1939 the machine is hungry and not particular. They shave your heads. They number your boots. They teach you that the most important man in your life is now a carabiner 98K that weighs 4 kilograms and must never, under any circumstance, leave your hands dirty. Emile treats it like a toy at first. You watch a Feldwebel named Kraus break that out of him in a single afternoon, standing over your brother in the rain until the grin is gone and something quieter takes its place. You're grateful and you hate yourself for being grateful. At night the two of you whisper across the gap between bunks. He talks about after. The farm. A girl named Liesel. The motorcycle he's going to buy. You don't talk about after. You've started to suspect there might not be one, and you don't want him to hear it in your voice. By the end of the 6th week, the boy who lied to the clerk can field strip a rifle blindfolded, march 30 kilometers without complaint, and stand a midnight watch without falling asleep. He's become a soldier. You watch it happen and you feel something you have no word for, a pride that tastes exactly like grief. On the last night, you give him the compass. You hold onto it, you say. Just for a while. He laughs and says you're being dramatic. He's right. You take it back in the morning. You don't smile in the graduation photograph. Emile does. He always does. Level 2. The Rifleman. Gefreiter. Poland, then France. 1940. The single chevron means nothing except that they trust you to carry the heavy things and complain about none of them. You and Emile end up in different sections of the same company, which is luck, the only kind the army hands out for free. You see him at meals. Across fires. In the backs of trucks rolling west through countries that fold one after another like a man losing at cards. The war in 1940 is almost gentle, if war can be that. It moves fast. The enemy breaks before you reach them. The old soldiers, the ones who fought the last time, keep waiting for it to turn into something terrible, and it keeps refusing to. You don't trust it. The compass spins in your pocket, and you take that as honesty. Nothing this easy points anywhere good. Your section leader is an Unteroffizier named Brandt, 26 and already ancient, a man who's been doing this since before it was fashionable. He notices you. The way you check corners. The way you count your magazines twice. You think too much, he tells you one evening, not unkindly. Out here, thinking gets you to the next morning. But it'll cost you everything else. You don't know what he means. You will. The first man you watch die isn't an enemy and isn't dramatic. A boy from your section, cleaning a weapon he believed was empty. One sound. Then a silence that the whole platoon steps around. You wait to feel the enormous thing. It doesn't come. That's what frightens you, the not coming, the way the death slides off you like rain off oilcloth. That night you find Emile and sit beside him and don't say why. He hands you half a chocolate bar he's been saving and you eat it cold and neither of you speaks. He's watching you though. He sees more than he lets on, your little brother. You're going to keep me alive, aren't you, he says. Not a question. Yes, you say. It's the most dangerous promise a man can make, and you make it without a second's hesitation, and that's the moment the war truly begins for you.
If you respect that promise, the kind a man makes in the dark and spends the rest of his life trying to keep, subscribe to Through the Ranks.
France falls. The newsreels call it a miracle. You sit in a captured cafe drinking wine you didn't pay for, watching Emile charm a waitress, the compass spinning in your pocket, and you let yourself believe, for 1 hour, that you've already seen the worst of it. You haven't. You've seen the easy part. Level 3. The Squad Leader. Unteroffizier. The East. Summer, 1941. Now 9 men answer to you, and one of them is your brother. You requested it. You shouldn't have. An officer told you it was a mistake to command your own blood, and you agreed with him and did it anyway, because a promise made in the dark doesn't care about regulations. Brandt is gone. Transferred east ahead of you, swallowed by the machine. Before he left he gripped your arm and said the only thing worth saying. Keep them alive when you can. Spend them right when you can't. And don't ever let one of them matter more than the rest. It'll get the rest killed. You nodded. You'd already broken that last rule before he finished saying it. The East is not France. The distances are obscene. The roads turn to soup and then to dust and then to soup again. The enemy doesn't break and run, he dies in place, and somehow there are always more of him, rising out of a country that seems to have no edge. Your men learn you. You learn them. Voss, who jokes to keep from shaking. Keller, who prays where he thinks no one can see. The Hessian brothers who carry a wounded man 4 kilometers without once setting him down. And Emile, who has stopped grinning. You notice it the way you'd notice a clock stopping, a sound that's gone before you know it was there. The boy who lied to a clerk to follow you to war is becoming a soldier, a real one, and you're the one who's making it happen, and every step he takes toward competence is a step away from the brother you swore to protect. One night under fire a green replacement runs the wrong way. You go after him. Emile goes after you, against orders, against sense, and the 3 of you come back through the dark with the air coming apart around you, and when you're safe you turn on your brother and scream at him with a fury that surprises you both. You don't follow me. You hear an order, you obey it. Even mine. Especially mine. He stares at you. I'm not going to watch you die, he says, very quietly. That was the deal. It went both ways. You have no answer for that. You take out the compass and watch the needle spin and you understand, finally, what your father meant. It doesn't point north. It points at the thing you're afraid to lose. Level 4. The Platoon Sergeant. Feldwebel. The East. Winter, 1941 into 1942. The cold is a living thing. It kills more quietly than the enemy, and just as completely. Men sit down to rest and don't get up. The grease freezes in the rifles. The bread freezes and must be cut with a saw. You're the spine of a platoon now. 40 men. And a young lieutenant named Hoffman, 23, fresh from an academy that taught him a war that no longer exists. You keep him alive the only way it can be done. You don't correct him in front of the men. You suggest. You phrase the order he should give as the order he is giving. You let him believe the good ideas are his, because a platoon that doesn't trust its officer hesitates, and out here hesitation is just a slower word for death. He learns. He's not a fool. One night, the candle between you, he asks the question they all eventually ask. How do you decide? When there's no good choice. You pick the one you can live with, you say. Then you live with it. He nods like you've handed him a stone. You have. Emile is a Gefreiter now, in your platoon, carrying the same compass-shaped weight you carry, except his weight is you. You watch him in the firelight one night, sharing tobacco with the Hessian brothers, and he looks up and catches you watching, and for just a second the old grin flickers across his face. The one from the recruiting station, the one that made you tell him to go home. Then it's gone. The position you've been told to hold cannot be held. You hold it anyway, because the order came from above and above does not explain itself. You hold it for 2 days, in the cold, against a force that outnumbers you in a way the maps couldn't show. When the order finally comes to pull back, you've lost 11 men, and you carry your wounded through the snow in the dark, and you leave your dead because there is no choice and the ground is too frozen to bury them in anyway. Emile walks beside you the whole way and doesn't say a word. When you finally stop, He sits with his back against a shattered tree and looks at his own hands like they belong to someone else. You sit beside him. You don't say it's all right. It isn't. You just stay until the shaking stops.
If you respect the men who hold a line that has already broken, who carry their brothers through the worst nights of their lives and leave their friends in the snow because the war gives them no other choice, subscribe to Through the Ranks.
Level 5. The Officer. Lieutenant. The East. 1942. They give you a commission. Not for brilliance. For arithmetic. Too many officers are dead, and a man who knows how to lead from the front is worth more than a man who knows Latin. The bar on your shoulder changes how the men look at you, and it changes how you can look at Emil. You can order him to his death now. You feel the weight of that the way you'd feel a stone swallowed whole. You try to get him transferred. Somewhere safer. Anywhere safer. The request comes back denied. There is no safer. Not anymore. The whole front is the front now. Your first action as an officer is a river crossing under fire. You stand on the bank and give the order to advance into water. The enemy has already ranged with everything they have, and you keep your face still because 40 men are reading it to decide whether to be afraid. Emil is in the water. You watch him go in, and you do not call him back, because to call one man back is to tell 39 others their lives are worth less, and Brandt's last rule rings in your skull like a struck bell. Don't ever let one of them matter more than the rest. Emil comes out the other side. 9 men don't. That night you walk the riverbank counting, the way you always count, and when you reach your brother sitting alive in the mud you have to turn away so he won't see your face. Later you run it in your head. The version where you waited an hour. The version where the 9 men grow old somewhere far from any river. The version where it was Emil in the water that didn't come out. The version you can't stop building no matter how you try. You stop running it, eventually. It never fully stops. Level 6. The Marksman. Scharfschütze. The East. 1943. They pull you out of the line for a different kind of war. It happens because of a single shot. A bad position, an enemy machine gun, your men pinned, and you taking a rifle off a dead man and ending the problem at 400 meters without seeming to aim. An officer with cold eyes watches you do it and decides what you are. You don't want it. You take it anyway, because a sniper chooses his own ground, and a man who chooses his own ground can sometimes choose ground that keeps his brother out of the worst of it. That's the lie you tell yourself. The truth is the army has found the thing you're good at, and the army never gives back what it finds. The work is quiet and lonely and cold. You lie still for hours that become days, breathing slowly, becoming part of the landscape until even the birds forget you. Through the scope, a man is no longer a gray shape in a gray mass. He's a man lighting a cigarette, laughing at something you can't hear, reading a letter and touching it once with 2 fingers before he folds it away. You squeeze the trigger between heartbeats and the laughing stops and you write the time in a small book, and something inside you goes very still in a way that doesn't come back when the war ends. One gray morning you have an enemy officer in your scope, important, the kind of target that shortens a battle. And in the same moment, 100 meters behind your own line, you see Emil. Walking. Upright. Careless, the way he gets when he's tired, the way you've warned him about 1,000 times. In full view of the very officer you're about to kill. You have a choice that takes less than a second. Take the officer, and the shot reveals your position, and the enemy's answering fire falls exactly where your brother is walking. Or hold. Let the officer live. Let the battle run longer. Let other men whose names you don't know, pay for the seconds you're about to spend. Don't ever let one of them matter more than the rest. You hold. You watch the officer fold his map and walk away unharmed, and you watch Emil reach cover, oblivious, and you lie there in the cold with a rifle warm against your cheek, and you understand that you have just become a worse soldier and a better brother in the same instant, and that you would do it again, and that this is exactly the corruption Brandt tried to warn you about. You don't write anything in the book that day. There's nothing to write. Level 7. The company commander. Hauptmann. The East. Retreating now. 1943 into 1944. 200 men. Their lives gathered into your two hands like water you're not permitted to spill, and you spill it anyway, every day, because that is what the rank is. The war has turned. Everyone knows it. No one says it. You're moving west now, the wrong direction, fighting for ground you'll abandon by nightfall, trading lives for hours, hours for a plan no one will ever explain to you. You stop writing letters home. Not because you've stopped loving the people there, but because there's nothing left to say that wouldn't be a lie or a wound. Emil is a Feldwebel now. Hardened. Respected. A man the young replacements look to the way you once looked to Brandt. You barely see him. Command is a kind of loneliness with 200 people in it. When you do see him, you don't talk about home. You talk about ammunition counts and fallback positions and which of the new boys will break first. The grin is gone for good now. You can't remember the last time you saw it. You wonder, sometimes, lying awake, whether you did that. Whether the brother you swore to keep alive is a man you helped to kill in every way except the one that stops the heart. One night a runner brings an order that makes no sense. Hold a position that cannot be held, to buy time for a plan that will never be told to you. You look at the paper. You look at your men. 200 faces, one of them blood. You hold it. You lose 40 men holding it. And weeks later you learn the time you bought was wasted. The plan it served abandoned. The deaths a single line in a ledger kept by men who have never heard a shell land. Emil lives. You've stopped being able to tell whether that's mercy or just the war saving him for something worse. You catch yourself, one exhausted night, doing the arithmetic on your own brother. Calculating his odds the way you'd calculate any soldier's. Weighing his life against the position, the hours, the plan. And the worst part is how easy it is. How natural. How the numbers don't flinch when his name is one of them. You set the report down and press the heels of your hands into your eyes until you see colors, and you think, the man who got off that train would not recognize the man holding this pen. You're not sure you do either. Level 8. The battalion commander. Major. Retreat. 1944. The mud is further away now. You command from maps and radios and reports, and the distance you once hated has become the thing that lets you keep functioning at all. Up close, every man is a face. From here, they're arrows and numbers and the cold word strength, meaning how many of yours are still able to die. 800 men you'll never all know. You move them like a hand moving chess pieces, except chess pieces don't carry photographs in their breast pockets, don't have brothers, don't bleed when you make a mistake. You make mistakes. You've stopped pretending otherwise. The trick is to make fewer than the man across the line, and to make them faster, so there's time to recover from each one. War at this level isn't courage. It's accounting. You're good at it, which is its own quiet horror. Emil is somewhere in the line beneath you. A name on a report now. A unit designation. You've climbed so high that your own brother has become a number you have to look up. You catch yourself doing it one night, running your finger down a casualty list, checking, the way you've checked 1,000 times, your heart performing the same cold arithmetic it performs for everyone now. His name isn't on it. You feel relief, and then you feel the relief curdle, because you realize you read the list the same way whether his name is there or not. The same flat scan. The same professional detachment. The promise you made in the dark all those years ago is still inside you somewhere. But you have to dig for it now. It used to be the loudest thing in you. Now it's buried under 800 others, and you're not sure anymore that you could find it in time. Level 9. The General. Generalmajor. The collapse. Early 1945. The stars on your collar mean you no longer touch the war with your hands. You touch it with your signature. A line of ink moves 10,000 men toward something, and some fraction won't come back, and you'll never see their faces, and that mercy is also a damnation. You sit in rooms with men who've never been forward, who speak of divisions the way bankers speak of accounts, and you understand at last the full shape of the machine you've served for 6 years. You understand its purpose. You understand its cost. And you understand, sitting in a warm room while younger versions of yourself freeze in the snow, that the orders stopped being about winning a long time ago. Now they're about pride. About men who cannot say aloud that everything has already been lost. A request reaches your desk. A transfer. A single Feldwebel, requesting reassignment to a rear unit on grounds of length of service. Routine. The kind of thing a general signs without reading. You read the name. Emil. Your hand stops. You have the power now. The single thing you've wanted since a station platform in 1939. You can pull your brother out of the line with one stroke of a pen. You can keep the promise, finally, fully, the way you never could as a sergeant or a captain. And you understand, in the same breath, that to do it is to spend a transfer slot that should go to a man with more right to it. That it is exactly the favoritism Brandt warned you would get the rest killed. That the brother you'd be saving would never forgive you for saving him while better men stayed and died. You sit with the pen in your hand for a very long time. Then you sign it. You're a worse general and a better brother, in the same stroke, for the second time in your life. You think about the boy who lied to a clerk. You wonder when exactly you stopped being the man who'd have done anything to protect him, and started being the man who has to overrule 6 years of training to do it. You can't find the moment. There wasn't one. There were just 1,000 small surrenders, each one reasonable, each one survivable, until they added up to a man your father saw coming the day he handed you a broken compass and looked away. Level 10. The end. Spring, 1945. The war ends the way a fever breaks. Suddenly, and then not at all. The uniform comes off. The stars come off. What's left underneath is a man with too many letters never written and too many names folded small inside him. The transfer you signed for your brother never reached him. The paper moved slower than the collapse. By the time the order found his unit, the unit no longer existed, scattered across a frozen field in the last weeks of a war that everyone but the men dying in it knew was over. You learn this from a single survivor, months later, in a town whose name you'll forget by evening. He doesn't know who you are. He only knows you're asking about a Feldwebel who carried a brass compass that didn't work. He gave it to me, the man says. At the end. Said to find his brother. Said his brother would know what it was for. He presses it into your hand. The needle spins. It always spins. You stand in the road and you finally understand the thing your father understood at the station, the thing he couldn't say, the thing that made him look away. The compass doesn't point north. It points at the one you're afraid to lose. And it spins because, in the end, you lose them anyway. Every soldier learns this. The pointing was never a promise that you'd hold on. It was only a way of remembering that you tried. 6 years. Learning when to advance. When to hold. When to obey. When to break every rule you were ever given for the sake of one face in a sea of faces. When obedience was the heaviest order of all, and when the bravest thing a man could do was disobey it too late. No one told you it would end this quietly. But now you understand. The quiet was always waiting at the end of the climb.
If you respect the men who carried that weight, the brothers who made impossible promises in the dark and spent everything they were trying to keep them, and walked home with nothing but a compass that points at the ones they could not save. Subscribe to Through the Ranks,